what's up guys? This is the Wheelman282. I am back again after a very long break. I know it's been like a month or two since I posted my video on installing a mod chip in a PlayStation 1, and since then life's kind of gotten in the way and I just really haven't had any time to make any videos. So I've got some free time now and I'm going to actually be bringing something new to the channel, and that is 3D printing. I actually have a 3D printer now and it is super cool. Cool story about this guy. My brother actually bought it maybe about a year ago, and he kind of started on it, but he never really finished it. He didn't, just kind of ran out of time, and he just gave it to me, and I graciously accepted. And now I've got a working 3D printer, guys. So if you're into 3D printing, or if you've never heard of it, or don't know much about it, maybe you learn something from my videos. I'm kind of actually new to it myself. Don't know a whole lot about it, but I am learning more about it every day, and it is super cool, guys. At least to me, robotics and 3D printing, it's so freaking cool. You could just make stuff. It's crazy. I actually never thought I would own one. I thought it was just kind of like one of those pipe dreams where I would just never be able to afford one, but it actually come down quite a lot in cost. This one costs $175, $200, and it was free to me, so thanks Matt, appreciate that. So yeah, anyway, we're gonna go ahead and check out the printer, see how it works, show you some things that I've done to it, and if you like 3D printing, if you like the content on my channel, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe if you like. If you want to see more 3D printing videos and things like that, let me know. I would love to hear it. And so anyway, let's check it out. Okay guys, let's go ahead and check out the printer real quick. As you can see, this is a Delta printer, or it's in a Delta configuration, whatever you want to call it. Some people call it Castle Mini, so I guess you could say it's a clone of a Castle Mini. Specifically, this is this came from eBay. This is I think it's a Sintron brand printer. It's just one of your typical Chinese clones from eBay. Roughly, I think one of these runs you about $175 to $200 on average, and it definitely shows some of the plastic parts aren't exactly quality, but overall, once you get the printer built, it actually works pretty well. If you tune it in and kind of get your parts tuned in right, it actually works pretty well. It puts out some really good quality prints. So real quickly, I'm just kind of going to give you a quick rundown of kind of what it is, what I've done to customize it and fix it and things like that. So first off, all the red parts that you see installed, those came with the printer kit. I'm not sure what kind of plastic it is, but it looks to be like it's printed in 0.3 millimeters layer height. Again, not sure what kind of plastic it is, but it is starting to crack in some places. So specifically up here on like this joint, it's starting to crack right here, and I've actually got it super glued just to hold it in place until I can get another one, or a replacement part printed. So yeah, I mean, what do you expect coming from China? It's not the best quality, but it gets the job done, at least. To print out some new parts. So this it does come with a heated bed. This is a heated aluminum bed. It had some screws and springs to mount it to the frame. I didn't really like that too much. Didn't have a lot of luck with it, so I printed off some of these, I don't know what you call them, bed holders, whatever you call them, from Thingiverse. They work okay. They get the job done. You kind of lose your bed leveling a little bit because you can't adjust your bed, but I found it's a lot easier to adjust the bed leveling in the firmware, and it works out great. Not really any problems at all with that. Here on the Effector, or the tool, we have again we have our original Effector here that came with the printer. Got our cooling fan here to cool off the hot end, I guess you'd call it, and I've printed off this cooling duct here that comes actually comes off and goes underneath the hot end right there and cools your part. Actually works pretty well. I actually like this part. It works really well. You can see I've got some Captain tape on there, and not really to keep keep the tool from melting on the hot end. The fan actually does a pretty good job of keeping the plastic cool. But really, from what I found after I installed this and started printing things with it, that the fan actually puts out so much air and forces so much out that when this is on the bed here, like the air is bouncing back up off the bed and cooling the hot end, and it started giving me the printer started giving me temperature warnings, and it would just it would halt the print job and just shut itself off because of the thermal protection in the firmware. So I covered the thing in thermal in Captain tape on top, and for the sole purpose of just directing the air down. It's kind of funny. Otherwise, the plastic actually doesn't really melt all that much, I mean at all really, on the heat block. So there's that. Let's see. I've got a Bowden extruder and wire harness here. Really just strain leaf on the wires and things. I don't really have the wires tied up yet, just kind of hanging loose. I guess I should say this printer is a work in progress. I'm not done with this yet, so some things are still kind of messy. As you can see here, I've got just some alligator clips holding or connecting to the cooler fan here. So there's that. Quick note about the effector assembly here. I'm kind of new to 3D printing, so I'm not totally sure on what this is called, but it's whatever the hot end slides into and then bolts to the effector. I think they call it like a J head or something. Anyway, the one that came with the printer, it's awful. I don't know who designed it, but it's terrible. So I mean, it worked well enough to hold the hot end onto the effector to get you printing, but the mount comes out right here underneath these two rods. So your fan installs right there underneath these two rods, and so if the effector ever needs to do a wide move over here to this tower, your fan slams into the belt every single time. Who the crap designed that? Anyway, I designed my own J-head tool thing, whatever you call it, in Fusion 360 and printed it so that any tool would be out here on the side of the printer and not close to any tower. So we have our main cooling fan here in the front. I've got this fan over here on this side, and then over here on this side I don't have anything installed, but if, in the future when I do, there aren't going to be any obstructions. So yeah, if you want to download this part, I'll have it on Thingiverse soon. I haven't uploaded it yet, but if you have a one of these Sintron Delta minis or whatever, definitely print that out. It's really super handy if you want to install a cooling fan or whatever. Let's see here. Again, this is a work in progress, so the wires are a little bit messy. I've actually got them tied up pretty well for what it is, but I'm not totally done yet. So it does run on runs on my own firmware, so it uses a Arduino Mega 2560 and a Ramps 1.4 board. Typical printer installation. Usually on Deltas you see all of the electronics and all the wires underneath the hot bed or the heated bed. When I was building this thing, I didn't know that at the time. Again, I am brand new to 3D printing, so that's not how I installed it. I installed it on the top of the printer so that I could get to the electronics easily and wire it up without having to turn the printer on its side or take the bed off and mess up my bed leveling. I just put it on top because it was easier, and that's just kind of where it stayed. So you see this big wire harness here. These are the stepper motors and the heated bed, and the extruder motor here on the back. And I mean, actually, I think it looks kind of neat. I mean, it's a little bit messy because I don't have it, completely cleaned up yet. But I'll actually be putting one of those nylon net tubes on this thing once I'm done, make it look a little bit nicer, and I think it'll actually turn out pretty well, you know, for what it is. Again, I do have to wire in the cooling fan and a Z probe. I want to put a Z probe with a servo here on this side of the tool, and wire that into the harness, and then, you know, put the net on that sometime in the future, probably in the near future, maybe even in the next video. I don't know. Take a look here at the back of the printer. We have our extruder motor here. I am printing in PLA right now. I haven't really bought any ABS just because I haven't bought any yet. So the extruder motor does get kind of warm, and on longer prints it tends to make the filament, as it's coming into the printer, tends to make it a little bit soft, and it has the tendency to jam. So what I did was I actually designed this part in Fusion 360 and printed it. It's just a simple fan mount for a 50 millimeter, you know, computer fan, and I've just got it stuck here on top of this thing to you know, to cool off the filament and to keep it from jamming. I'll have that on Thingiverse pretty soon as well if you want to download that. Moving up here to the power supply, this is your typical Chinese piece of crap supply, and it works okay, and that's about it. If I had known it was such crap, I would have just used an ATX supply, but I didn't know it at the time. I guess I should have known since it came from China. But it's installed, it works, I'm just going to use it. If you're using one of these supplies that comes from China, you need to open it up and check it. So this is what happened to me. Quick story. When I was first building this thing, the supply had turned on and I didn't think twice about it. As I was building the printer, eventually for some reason the power supply would not power on anymore, and I could not figure out why. So I eventually just, you know, I took out the circuit board inside, checked underneath it, and there were like 2 or 3 solder points that were just so poorly soldered. I can't believe like it made it to the United States in one piece. Like one side of the fuse was just so poorly soldered, like you could just snap it off by just touching it. It was insane, and that's actually what had happened. The fuse had just came unsoldered from the joint. It was so poorly soldered. So I soldered the fuse back in. I soldered in a few other points. I actually reflowed several points because the soldering was so terrible, and now it's working perfectly, at least for what it is. I still don't exactly trust it. I definitely wouldn't leave this alone printing in your house. I'm kind of afraid it might catch fire, but so far it's actually done pretty well. I do have a 120 millimeter fan on the back of the or on the supply, just to keep it cool. It does get a little bit warm during print, so I've just got that on there. Printed this. I just printed this for the heck of it. Just this like turbine duct or whatever, or, you know, fan shroud. I don't know why. I just did it because I could. Kind of makes the print looks like it's going fast. We have our mains power going in here through this side, and then we have our 2 12 rolls coming out this side, and then that goes into our ramps board. On the ramps board, we do have, I have installed a couple of cooling fans. The stepper motors, or excuse me, the stepper drivers on the board, they get pretty hot, and they'll actually, due to the thermal shutoff protection built into the drivers, they'll start skipping steps as they get too hot, and that's exactly what happened to me. So to keep the printer from skipping steps, I just printed off this, I don't know what you call it, fan shroud or fan attachment. Got a couple of 40 millimeter fans in there, and it cools off the whole thing. Works really well. It's kind of loud, but you know, what are you going to do? It's no big deal. And both these fans run through 12 volts coming off of the ramps board. Let's see what else we got here. I do have a full graphics smart LCD controller on this, and it's just kind of clipped onto the frame here. I don't really, it kind of, as you can see, it slides. I'll I don't know, I'll get some tape on there eventually, I guess, or whatever, maybe some zip ties. But you know, whatever, works pretty well. I actually like the full graphic controller. It's got an SD card slot on the side, got a little knob there that I printed. Actually works pretty well. I like that controller. Let's see, the end stops. These are actually Maker by end stops that came with the kit, and they got really good quality micro switches on here, and they light up red. There's a little red LED on there when they get clicked, so that's good. I like those. And you'll also notice inside the extrusion here, I've got some LED strips. I'll be installing these in a later video. I don't have them installed yet. They're just in the extrusion. They're not even wired or soldered up yet. I found myself several times printing in the dark, or having to leave a lamp turned on because I'm printing in the dark, and it's just kind of an inconvenience. So I figured I would just buy a roll of LED strips and just stick it on there. So I do have those. They're slid inside the extrusion, and in a future video I'll be wiring these up to plug into the ramps board. They do run on 12 volts, and actually what I've decided I'm going to do, let me turn this printer back around here and show you what I'm going to do in a future video, if I can show you. You see we have some of these pins here on the side, so this black section of pins, these are for servos. These two yellow sections, these are just auxiliary, multi-function pins, I guess you'd say. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to build a fan and LED controller board with some MOSFETs, and just have like a thing that plugs in there, and it's still be controlling these fans and also the fan on the extruder motor here, because they run all the time, and it's a little bit loud, and they don't necessarily need to run all the time. So basically, when the printer's turned on, those fans are running, and they don't necessarily need to. I just need them to run when it's doing a print job. So just to save on wear and tear on the fans, and just to keep it a little bit quieter, I'll be installing that in a future video. Another upgrade I'm actually going to make is not really an upgrade, it's more of a necessity, is a power switch. Yeah, there's no power switch on this. It's like you plug it into the wall, and it's powered on. So I'll just install a switch in the future. I just don't have one installed yet. I think that pretty much covers it. Not much else to talk about on this. So tell you what, I'll go ahead and get it set up for printing, and I'll do like a time lapse or whatever, and we'll see what we can make. So I went ahead and got my slicer software set up here, and I'm just going to print out this 3D model of Samus Aran, or I tried to at least. This is going to be pretty tricky, but I think I've got it sliced pretty good. Let me show you what I've got. So I'm printing at 0.1 millimeters layer height. Try to get a nice high resolution. Printing at 5% infill at a print speed of 40 millimeters per second. So hopefully this will come out right. I believe it will. Printing with a brim and supports. So here's kind of what our print preview is going to look like. Looks like a giant mess, but most of this is the supports. So yeah, it's going to kind of look like that. So let's go ahead and I've already got my hot end and the heated bed up to temperature right now. So we're going to go ahead and print this and see how it works out. So go up here to print. So there it is, guys. It doesn't look like much because we haven't removed all of the support material, but you can kind of see Samus in there in the middle. Got some stringiness going on between the support material. I am actually using the retraction on the slicer. I think it just doesn't retract or something like that, or doesn't retract enough during the move positions between the support material. I'm not sure if that's in the slicer settings or not. I'll have to do some research on that. But anyway, let me go ahead and get this cleaned up and try to get these strings off here, and we'll see what we have. I might print something else. Okay, so there we go. We have a complete little miniature Samus Aran. I don't know if it's kind of hard to show up on the video. It probably would have turned out better if I had printed it a little bit bigger. Maybe twice this size, I don't know. There was a lot of stringing. There is still some stringing around the helmet that is just really hard to get to. And some of the layers aren't exactly... they're lined, but they're kind of like... they're kind of beady. I don't know if that's the right word, but they're kind of beady along the layers. Because of all of the retraction, it was, the printer's having to do when it's printing the thing. So that's understandable for something of this size. If I'd probably printed it larger, it probably would have shown up a little bit better. But I mean, overall, it's cleaned up pretty good. It's not bad at all. So yeah, let's print a Darth Vader now. There is a low poly Darth Vader on Thingiverse, and it looks pretty cool. I want to try printing that. That's so neat. I want to try printing the Darth Vader just to see what happens. Supposedly it has an articulating head, which is pretty neat. So yeah, let's go ahead and print that. I think that Darth Vader is roughly about... I can't show you here on camera, but it's roughly 3 or 4 inches high. I don't know what that converts to in metric. Since all 3 prints are in metric, but it's pretty neat. So yeah, there's my Samus Aran little figurine thing. So yeah, let's go ahead and print this Darth Vader, and let's see how it works. Alright guys, so there you go. We are done printing the Darth Vader here. This is the low poly Darth Vader from Thingiverse. And I mean, overall it turned out great. I mean, there's a few little snags here on the ends where it's where I need to tweak the retraction settings on my slicer, but I mean, heck, overall, look at that. It turned out pretty doggone good. The little neck piece here, it printed fine, but it's just not really. It needs to be made a little bit bigger. It doesn't slot into the neck and the head like it's supposed to. So I could, you know, expand that in the slicer and make it a little bit bigger. I mean, you can kind of see what they're going for, but it doesn't really work that great. So I could probably just print another one of those and just make it work better. But yeah, overall guys, this is a pretty good printer. I mean, after you tweak it a lot like I have, out of the box, it's kind of Chinese crap. But I mean, if you take the time and you know, work with it and get it working smoothly, it makes some pretty good quality prints. I gotta say, I am surprised for it to be my first 3D printer and all. So yeah, if you like this video, if you like seeing 3D printer stuff, and if you want me to print some more things, let me know. I'll do what I can. I'll probably be documenting some of the upgrades I'm going to be doing to this printer, so I'll probably end up replacing these the little bases here, because they're starting to crack and everything, and you know, stuff like that. But anyway, yeah, if you like the video, give me a thumbs up, subscribe if you want to, and in the meantime, take care.